Another course vlog from my home course at Belmont Country Club, and I'm teeing off early with no warm-up here to try to get ahead of some other groups. So I'm taking a 3 hybrid off the tee here. Ended up going a little bit right, but I had a perfect window to the green and hit a good shot here. It got a perfect bounce off the side of the bunker right towards the pin. So I had this for birdie on the first hole and surprisingly hit a decent putt, and it actually went in, so that's a good start. .135 to the pin over the water, so I hit a little pitching wedge. Ended up going just right of the pin, about pin high, so I had 15 feet for another birdie, which would have made me really happy. And I gave this one a good roll, just kind of misread it off to the left, but that's a tap-in par. My driver's been sucking lately, so of course I hit this one out to the right, didn't turn over. So I had a little punch shot that I had to fade around the trees here. Hit a good one with a 5 iron, ended up by the green, and I had to play through some guys, so I ended up chipping and 2 putts from there for a bogey. I did hit a good drive on the next hole, a little low draw right down the center, and had about 105 yards into a back pin. Hit a good shot here, but I think it took some spin off because the fairways were pretty wet, so I did go a little bit long. And I hit a good putt here, but it jumped way right out of the fringe, so I ended up a few feet from the hole, but I was able to make that one for a par. Decided to trim this tree down a little bit for next time I play this course, and ended up about 50 yards off the tee. Then I went for the hero shot with a hybrid to slice around the trees, but it sliced way too early, and I ended up right in the middle of the trees. Took a deep breath and wanted to get back out into the fairway, hopefully for an up and down for par. So I hit an 8 iron out into the middle of the fairway and had about 95 yards into the pin. I hit a good shot here, but it ended up just a little bit shorter than I had hoped, so I had about 20-25 feet up the hill for a par. Again, I hit a good putt, had a little bobbles on the way there, but just didn't turn how I thought it would, and ended up with a tap-in for bogey. Hit a decent drive here, just didn't turn over, but being through the fairway on the right is not the worst spot. Unfortunately, I got a terrible lie in a little nest of grass in the dirt where a tree used to be, so I ended up hitting this a little thin over the green, which is the last place you want to be. It's a really tough pitch from here, but I ended up hitting it perfectly, landing it on the back of the green, and it rolled all the way down and broke towards the hole. So I had 4 or 5 feet left for par, and luckily was able to make a good par save and make that putt. Taking a 3 hybrid off the tee here, didn't hit it great, but ended up on the right side of the fairway. Ended up hitting this approach shot thin, it landed by the pin and took a huge skip up to the back. So I had a long downhill putt for birdie. Didn't give this one the best run, but it did come down the hill enough that I had a few feet left for par. So I did sink that one for par, and I didn't film my tee shot on this par 3, but I took a 5 iron, it was about 225, ended up short left, and then I hit what I thought was a perfect chip shot, but it just rolled out forever, so I didn't leave myself the best par chance coming back. So, hit a mediocre putt, missed well left of the hole, and ended up tapping in for bogey. Par 5 9th was by far the best hole I've had in a while. I crushed this drive over the trees to take the short line. It was about 320, and then I had 165 into the pin off a really severe upslope. So I hit an 8 iron, and it was headed right at the pin. I thought it might go in for a second. And it didn't go in, but I did have a few inches left for a tap-in eagle, which brought me back to even for the front 9. Hit a good drive on 10, a little low fade here, right into the middle of the fairway. And I kept putting the ball too far back in my stance on some of these short irons and wedges, so I kind of hit the equator on the ball on this approach shot, which took some of the spin off and it came in low. It landed right by the pin, but went all the way to the back of the green, so I did have a decent birdie putt. Just an average putt here, missed long, but had a tap in for par. 170 yards to this par 3 pin. I hit an 8-iron, ended up just short and left by about 20-25 feet. So I did have an uphill putt for birdie. I gave it a good run, but just had a misread here. I thought it was pretty much straight, but it broke off way right at the end. But again, another tap-in par. Another bad tee shot here. I pulled it left, and it did fade a little bit, but I was down the left side, which is the last place you want to be. I got trapped by some trees and wanted to hit a draw around them, and ended up closing the club face down and just pulled it straight left into the tree. So I had a really tough punch shot to the green. Hit a good shot here. I didn't realize the water came out so far to the right, but luckily I stayed just out of the water and had about 50 yards for my birdie pitch. Short game was feeling pretty good today, and I hit this one well, leaving myself with 5 or 6 feet for par. I thought this putt was going to break way more than it did, so I missed that, but was able to make the bogey. Hit a nice pull fade 7-iron here, so I ended up long and left of the green, and that left me with kind of an awkward chip shot from behind the pin on the short side. Hit a pretty good shot here, so I had a good chance at par. And then I hit what I thought was a perfect putt, and I just can't believe this one didn't break at all. It went dead straight, so that's a tap-in bogey. Bad choice hitting driver here, especially with how poorly I was hitting it, so I snap hooked this into the dirt by a tree. But then I hit one of the better recovery shots I've hit in a while, drew it right around this tree in front of me towards the pin, ended up about 20 feet short, so I did have a birdie look after all. Again, hit a good putt just on the wrong line, so I ended up just barely missing and had another tap-in par. Took a 5-iron off the tee on this short par 4, pulled it just a little bit, but had a really good angle into the pin. And again, had the ball too far back in my stance and hit another little equator approach shot, so it went long and right. This is the last place you want to be, and it's basically a guaranteed 3-putt from here where that pin is. My first putt was terrible anyways, and then I had this one to try to save par. Not an easy putt, as you can see, so I was able to tap that in for bogey. Again, below average drive, just faded off right a little bit, but I did have a look into the green. This was probably the worst iron swing of the day, just real choppy, so I ended up short and left of the green. Hit this putt way too short, so I'm just compounding bad shots on this hole. So of course I'm going to miss this next putt and end up with a well-deserved bogey. Kind of falling apart on these last few holes, hit a 3 hybrid, went off to the right and took a really big bounce straight right. I had a decent look into the green, but yanked this one way left. It was pin high, but hit the side hill on the green and went way down to the left. Tried to hit a little cut right spinner in here, hit it well, but just a little bit long. And this putt is always tough, but I absolutely hammered it through the break. And luckily on this bogey putt, I was able to lip it in. Hit the worst tee shot of the day on 18, snap hooked it into the trees. And then I had to hit this 5-iron punch draw around this tree, hit a good shot here. So I did have a look at the green with another 5-iron, hit it so bad I scared these birds in the tree. So I was short right on the green, but I was chipping it pretty well, so I didn't even take my putter down there. Had a good feeling about this one, hit a good pitch shot, and it rolled up to within a foot of the hole for a tap in. So a couple good holes, a lot of bad drives, and overall a 77, which was a really good score for how poorly I was hitting my driver. So that's definitely the thing I'll be working on, because I know I can save 4 or 5 strokes on that alone.